Hey everyone, today I have another video, this time on a Card Fate Vanguard deck. This is for, again, the Overdress series of Vanguard. This is for my second favorite deck in the Overdress format. This is Seraph Snow. This is a deck for Brandgate, so this will, which they focus on set order cards, all of which are fairly interesting. So let's start, of course, with the grade 0. Oh. Ruby red, just like any other regular starter in Overdress. If you went second, you draw a card when you right on top of this card. Very nice. Kyanite blue. When you place this on Vanguard circle, you can search your deck for a prison card, reveal it, and add it to your hand. Now, before we go over any of the other cards, since we mentioned prison, I'll show you that card. This is arguably the most important card of the deck. This is Galaxy Central Prison Galactus, or Galactolus. To activate it, you must rest a unit, and then when it's placed in the order zone, you soul charge 3. Nice. Here's the main thing. Well, we'll keep this to the side. Of course, once we'll explain why you have that card. This is the grade 2 Aurora Battle Princess Resot Pink. When this is placed on Vanguard circle, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and imprisons it in your prison. And that is why we've got this card. It's essentially a different version of the locking mechanic Link Joker had in the past. However, you store all those units that you lock in this. And we'll continue with the rest of its abilities. When your opponent can normal call a rear guard, they can perform this instead. If they soul blast 1, they can choose one of their imprisoned cards and call it to a rear guard, or they can counterblast 1 to call 2 of their imprisoned units. Essentially, they have to pay costs in order to get their cards out. Now, why people are calling this a more fair version of lock, I do not understand, as lock eventually dissipates. This takes away resources from your opponent, which I'd argue is far worse. But let people think what they want. Anyway, that's now that we've got prison out of the way, or the prison card out of the way, we can explain everything in this deck a bit more clearly. This one can take a card from your opponent's hand and put it in your prison card. Very cool. And of course, the main grade 3 of the deck, Aurora Battle Princess Seraph Snow. His first ability is, during your turn, if one or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, this unit gets plus 10. If there are 3 or more, you get an extra drive. Very cool. And then it has its own ability on Vanguard or rear guard, which is very unique for main grade 3s, in Overdress especially. On Vanguard or rear guard, counterblast 1, choose 2 of your opponent's rear guards and imprison them. Very cool, so it helps add up to its own ability. Of course, you play 3 more copies of Seraph Snow in the main deck. We play this Aurora Battle Princess Execute Lemonan. It has the rear guard ability. When this unit attacks, you can counterblast 1 and soul blast 3. Ouch. Choose up to 3 of your opponent's rear guards and imprison them. And then if you have 3 or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned until the end of that battle, this unit gets plus 10k. If there are 5 or more, you get an extra critical. I'm only running 2 as this is more of an endgame finisher card. However, it's still very good. Then for one of the main grade 2s of the deck, we have Aurora Battle Princess Arga Rouge. This is a very good card, as its first ability is on Guardian Circle or Rear Guard. If there are 2 or more of your opponent's guards in your prison, this unit gets plus 5k power and plus 10k shield. Very cool. And then it has another ability. When it's placed on Rear Guard, you can Soul Blast 1, choose one of your opponent's cards, or front row rear guards, and imprison them. Nice. That's that. Next up is the next main grade 2 of the deck. This is Aurora Battle Princess Imperio Turquoise. Now, it doesn't imprison anything itself, however, it does help if your opponent feels like taking cards out of their prison, and essentially punishes them for doing so, punishes them even more. During your turn, if 2 or more of your opponent's cards are in your prison, this card gets plus 5k, so kind of has a bit of a weaker version of Arga Rouge's ability. And then on front row rear, when your opponent's card imprisoned in your prison is placed on rear guard, that unit gets minus 5k for the turn. Okay, so essentially if your opponent does call things out from the prison, they're essentially calling out weaker versions of those cards. Kind of making them decide if they want to even risk bringing cards out of the prison or not. We've got this other grade 2, Aurora Battle Princess Cuff Spring. When it is placed on rear guard, your opponent chooses a card from their hand and imprisons it, and they imprison it, and if it was imprisoned, your opponent gets to draw a card. It's interesting, not my favorite one, that's only playing it at 2. Some people play it at 3 or 4, well, yeah, 4. However, I only play it at 2. Next up, we've got some grade 1s. This grade 1, Aurora Battle Princess Raudend Azalea. During the battle that this unit boosted, if 2 or more of your opponent's cards are imprisoned, this unit gets plus 5k, so it's a pretty nice booster. Next up, we've got Bizarre Beast Bagumotor. If 1 or less of your opponent's cards are imprisoned in your prison, you rest this guy, and you get to imprison another. Very simple, and it's a nice way to get your imprisonings started. Next up, we've got Hyperspeed Robo Shovelstead, Counterblast 1 and Soul Blast 1. Choose one of your opponent's rear guards and imprison it in your prison. Then, if 3 or more are imprisoned, you draw a card. Very nice, and he looks like a Transformer. We've got Aurora Battle Princess Tria Bonkinvilla, I think. When this unit is placed on rear guard, choose one of your opponent's units in their prison, and you may call it to an open rear guard. To an opponent's open rear guard, and if you did, choose one of your opponent's rear guards and then imprison it. I originally had this at 4. I thought you could use it to trigger Turquoise's effect yourself, but then I remembered that effect would only last until the end of your turn, and it wouldn't carry over to theirs. So I quickly made the change and dropped this thing to 2, as I put in more of that booster. But anyway, this can still mess up your opponent's board. It can do a lot of things and make them call units that they might not want on the field, and get rid of ones that they do want on the field. So, and of course we already went over the prison. And the final grade 1 of the deck is the Branch Gate Perfect Guard. Like any other booster set Perfect Guard, you play it, Then you can discard a card, and if you have 2 cards or less in your hand, you don't have to. Of course, ooh. That was close. 8 criticals. First being the trial deck ones, and then the set 3 ones, where if it boosts, you can put it in the soul, and you give another unit an extra 2k. Very nice. The mandatory 4 heals. Oh. The Brandgate front effect, or effect front triggers, where if you use them to guard, they get an extra 5k. Very nice. And the Brandgate overtrigger. This one's special effect is double the power and critical of all your front row units until the end of the turn. Probably my favorite effect of the overtriggers, and his art is very cool. And this was the other SP overtrigger I was talking about in my Nirvana video. So yeah, 2 SP overtriggers. Very nice. And that's it for this deck. It's honestly a very fun one if you like the Brandgate clans. It's arguably the easiest to pick up, as you just gotta pick up a Brandgate start deck and you've got all the basics. And they're actually getting an amazing grade 4 that's arguably the best grade 4 that will be available right now, so I have a feeling this is going to be one of the top decks in the future. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good evening, because it's pretty dark out.